Hey all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. In this episode, we're going to be rehousing my Omothymus violaceopes and going over the husbandry and care for her. I've had this one for quite some time, but unfortunately haven't gotten a lot of pictures of her or footage of her because she's been one of the most shy tarantulas in my collection, and I've had a lot of people asking for it. So we finally went to do a rehousing to hopefully get some images and be able to talk about how I've cared for mine. And ironically, she showed up the night before, stayed out, and allowed me to get some photos of her, which was great because we get to include them in here in this video so you can kind of see what she looks like, and she is a beauty. So enough of me talking, let's get into the care and husbandry of Omothymus violaceopes. All right, we're about to rehouse my Omothymus violaceopes, or Singapore Blue. Funny story about this one is this is the spider that I hadn't seen out much in 3.5 years, one of the most elusive species I have kept. In that 3.5 year time period, I managed to catch almost exactly 20 seconds of it out and about, which I have used and recycled in several videos that I've tried to make that involved this species because I had nothing else. And my buddy Charles also bailed me out a couple times, lending me some photos and some videos of his. But as luck would have it, last night I came in and went to do some maintenance in the tea room, and I caught her out and about. So we do finally have some footage of her, and hopefully we'll get some more as this video goes on. Now we're going to start off a little differently. For this one, I'm going to show what I'm putting her into. I'm definitely changing up and upgrading her enclosure big time here. What we have is an Exoterra. I think it's Nano Tall or whatever. They have weird names, but these guys are 12 inches by 12 inches by 18 inches tall. They have the double opening glass doors. The top here is by C&M Terrariums. I did a video where I used one of these on my, I believe it was the OBT enclosure. I love them. They're a little pricey. I know people are going to complain, but I absolutely love them. It's worth it for me not to have to go through the pain of trying to drill out the glass. And for folks who think that you don't have to replace it, I have in fact experienced firsthand tarantulas getting their toe claws caught in the wire mesh, so it can happen. Does it happen a lot? Probably not. Can it happen and can it lead to injury? Yes. So that's why I replaced the top for anybody who's about to ask. And then in here, the enclosure, we have BioDude substrate. Now you could use anything. Over the years I've used topsoil, I've used peat, which I've phased out. I've used cocoa fiber mix. I love the BioDude stuff, so we got some of that in here. We have some terrarium green moss. I have some New Zealand sphagnum moss that I've actually crammed in here because what I'm hoping is that the spider will seek refuge in this cork bark round and make its burrow inside here. That is something that I am fixing from the last setups, which I will go through when we show some footage of those. And then we have a E. aureum, or what is it, the golden pothos plant here that actually I planted about a month ago, and it is really springing. We have obviously the water dish, some leaf litter, and there are little springtails in here bouncing all around. So it's not a full bioactive enclosure. It is an enclosure with a plant. I want to make that very clear. And as this is a moisture dependent species, I do think this is a good one to have the plant in, because when you keep the plant watered and make sure that it has enough moisture, then the spider is also going to benefit from that. So hopefully it likes this new enclosure. It's much bigger than what it had, and it will allow for more spots for it to hide. Now what we're going to do in a moment is when we rehouse, I'm going to put this cardboard over this corner over here, because what we want is the spider to feel we have the bright lights here. It's going to try to flee the bright lights and hopefully end up either in here or behind this cork bark hide and secure, so then we can continue on with the rest of the video. All right, so a little history on this one here. I picked some up late 2014, early 2015. I think I said early 2015 in another video, but I look back, it was actually before that. I picked up 3 slings. At that time, I had them in 32-ounce deli cups. It's important for these guys, although they are considered arboreal spiders, they tend to pick up their arboreal tendencies once they get some size on them. So expect your slings and juveniles to burrow just like little fossorials. So in that 32-ounce deli cup, I included several inches of moist substrate, but I also included the cork bark up top like I would for an arboreal species. And they did dig. They created their little web socks. Always keep that in mind if you're going to rehouse them, that a lot of times they line their burrows with these thick web silk socks that they hide in. Keeps all the moisture out from infiltrating the burrow, and it can be kind of a pain to negotiate when you go to rehouse them. It's 7 months. I moved them into 6-quart plastic totes. Again, lots of moist substrate. Actually, at this point, they were burrowing so much, it wasn't so much an arboreal setup. It was more fossorial with a little bit of arboreal touches on the surface. Again, gave them a water dish. That's important. We want to make sure they stay hydrated. All the fixings of a normal juvenile enclosure. Then in January of 2016, we have footage here. This is actually Billy's first video holding the camera, where because I didn't want my kids doing it, it was a fast species and we did it in my garage. But we moved the female into one of those Sterilite hanging file boxes. I believe they're around 4 gallons or so. And I reduced the amount of substrate. I gave it enough to do some digging, but not as much as I probably should have put in there. And I gave her the cork bark hide, the water dish, a little plant. And what she did was burrow behind that cork bark, got in underneath it, created a little burrow, and I didn't see her all that much. Then in February 2017, I went to put water in her on her substrate, and the top popped off of my water bottle, so I flooded it, and that led to some issues, so it was time to rehouse her. So what we put her in is what she's currently in now, which is an extra large critter keeper. Again, not as much substrate this time, and I used a cork bark flat. And you'll see in this video here how I had it set up. There really wasn't a lot of good hiding spots for her. This probably wasn't a good enough enclosure for her. I think that's why she has been so elusive and so shy, because that cork bark, although it works with my pokies, and they're usually out and about at this time, she was much more shy, and she burrowed underneath. And again, I hadn't caught her out much in 3.5 years. It was only that one time with those 20 seconds, and I think a lot of that was using that cork bark flat and not giving her adequate places to hide. So now we're going to go ahead and try to get her out of this enclosure. This is going to be a fun one. Hopefully what's going to happen here is I'm going to peel up this cork bark, and she's going to huddle down in the thing. We can get her into the new enclosure that way. We're going to cup her with one of these, probably the Simply Limeade, sponsored by, I'm hoping they, wouldn't that be great if they sponsored us? I don't take money for this stuff, but it'd be kind of funny to have one.
Sponsor us, dude.
I want to get sponsored by Simply Limeade. Don't ruin my dreams.
It's not going to happen.
I want everybody that's watching this video
Take our product and you can rehouse your
no, I want them to contact whoever made, was it Minute Maid? No. No. Oh, don't spread out. I really wish I took that plant out. Where is she? All right.
It's right there.
I want everybody that sees this video to contact Simply Limeade and tell them you started buying their product after seeing it advertised on Tom's Big Spiders. Now she's going to be a little tricky. Let's see. Is she behind there? Or on there?
She's
On there.
Isn't she?
Crud.
No.
That's going to make a nice little jump scare. Which way is she going? Boop. Boop. Again, sponsored by Simply Limeade. No, spoke too soon. Hold on.
Jeez.
Yep.
Oh boy.
All right, that's it. I no longer endorse Simply Limeade.
Oh boy.
I really need her to go in here. Wouldn't mind if she went up right into this.
The cork bark's like on her, sort of.
Ooh, my Lord. Yep, there she is. I'm just going to pop the back of this a little bit.
Okay.
Little booty shot. She does not like the light. So what we're going to do here is probably going to break for a second. Hold on. We're going to break for a second. We're going to renegotiate this just because it's going to take a minute. All right, so we moved the cages out of the way. Now we're going to try to get her into the new enclosure. What we should able to do, I don't really want to take the top off of it.
No. Can you put like a little thing on the top or something?
I got a little hole in the top. Go right through. Now go right behind. You getting that? Right behind there. And we are good. Woo! That was fun. All right. Now the trick with any spider when rehousing, I don't care if it's a new world or potentially fast and potent old world, is to stay calm and take your time. There's never any rush. I had somebody message me the other day, and it was, I forget which video it was, but they were mentioning that I did it much faster. I said, it doesn't matter how fast it is. It takes you an hour as long as everything's safe and there's never any issues. You're good. So there she is right in there. And now that we've got her rehoused, we'll go over some of the specifics for husbandry. So obviously this is her adult enclosure. Now, as far as temperatures are concerned, I've read that they need to be kept super hot. Actually, when I first got this guy, it was in the winter, or this girl was in the winter of 2014. And at that time, my tarantula room would sometimes dip to 68, even 66 degrees, and they grew just fine. So know that they can be kept at normal room temperatures. At my old house, my temperatures were high 60s to low 70s in the winter time, and then in the summertime when it was much warmer, they hit high 70s to 80, 82 on occasion. I will say in this new house, the tarantula room gets much more warm during the summer months. So we're talking in the summertime, the temps are high 70s to mid 80s. So either way, she grew very quickly, even with the lower temps. Now feeding for the slings, I like to feed my slings 2 times a week to get them out of that delicate stage, and they were good eaters. I just never saw them really eat. At that time, I gave them a small cricket or roach or even mealworm each. Once it hit the juvenile size, I went to once a week and gave it a medium to large cricket or so. And then as an adult, she now gets fed every week or two. It depends on my schedule. My schedule kind of fluctuates lately, but every week or two, and I'll give her 3 to 4 crickets a pop. There's actually a cricket in there right now that I found that I dropped in there because it was in her old enclosure from last night, so hopefully she'll be able to munch on that one later. So as far as keys of keeping the species, recognize that they are fast as slings. They are little teleporters. As adults, they are shy and like to be kept out of the light. So I would definitely encourage folks to do a little more in terms of giving them places to hide and make sure they're secure. It is also a moisture-dependent species. I do not measure humidity inside my terrariums. I have a general humidity gauge I use outside that I get the general humidity of the room. But what you need is moist substrate. So the trick is, I don't know if you can see here, you want to make sure that the lower levels of substrate stay moist, so these darker levels are nice and moist, and you want to let the top dry out a little bit. It keeps you from getting the undesirables like mold and stuff like that. But I don't worry about the humidity inside the enclosure. I'll put a little note up here that people can click to show you how I keep my species that require some moisture. And remember, they are fast. The venom is very strong. Back when I first got mine, I heard myths that they, or I don't know if they're myths, but people would talk about they always bite twice. It was like really kind of demonized this particular species. I haven't experienced that myself. I mean, obviously they can throw a threat posture. Obviously they are capable of biting, but I've seen them be more shy and skittish than anything. But they are fast, and that bite would not be a fun one. So obviously, because of those things, I would not consider this to be a beginner species. This is one that if there is such a thing, I'm not going to debate it, but if there is such a thing as an advanced species, this would be one of the ones that I would consider to be advanced because of the fact that it is a fast-growing, very fast, potent spider with medically significant venom that requires moisture. So when you put those together, you got something that the average tea keeper is not going to be able to handle right off the bat, the average beginner tea keeper. But recognize there are people out there that come from other hobbies with keeping other animals that might do better with them. For most people, this is not going to be a beginner species. So there we go. Omothymus violaceopes, the Singapore blue, who actually is more blue now. She went through quite the stage where she was quite purple. Wonderful spider, hoping in this new enclosure we'll catch her out more. Even after her last molt, talking about temperaments changing from molt to molt. After her last molt, she went from, not coming out at all to I've been catching her out and about more and more often. So hopefully that will continue in this new enclosure. Oh, and before we get growth, we did talk a little bit about being the fastest growing species, but just to give people an idea of how fast they grew, I had 2 males matured within 14 months time. That was full mature males, and males are smaller more gangly and a greener coloration, so you'll know early on, like I think it was the molt from about 4 inches or so, that's when they became mature males. And the female at the same time, about that 14 months period, was 5 inches. So excellent growth rate. Right now, I'm guessing she's around 7 or so, but she is a very gangly spider, very, very leggy, so it could be longer than that. It's just tough to get a good measurement on. So that will do it for Omothymus violaceopes, Singapore blue. Awesome spiders. Hopefully we see this grow out more because I really don't want to wait another 3.5 years to get any footage of her. All right, so hopefully in this new big enclosure, we catch her out a little bit more. I've made some adjustments, including the cork bark round, which should give her a little more privacy as far as a den is concerned. If that's what she chooses to make her den in, she could pick that area right behind it. And plus, having that plant in there that's blooming and growing and spreading, I think that foliage will give her some more cover. I've already seen her a couple times out exploring kind of behind the foliage. Hopefully that will entice her to be out and about a little bit more, because she really is a beautiful spider and she's one I'd love to see out more often. And as there's going to be some people asking, I just want to reiterate, if there is such a thing as an advanced species, this was one that would qualify. Again, that's because of the size. Supposedly they can get 8 inches or so, which is a big spider. The fact that they are considered to be one of the true moisture dependent species, you want to keep the things moist for them at all times through slaying, juveniles, and adulthood. And the fact that it is an old world species with a potentially potent bite. So a mistake could lead to some severe pain and some nastiness if it came down to it. So I do usually encourage folks to get some experience under their belt, especially with those rehousings before approaching species like these. But of course, the argument is always some people come in with more experience with other animals and spiders and just naturally are able to slide into keeping the more difficult ones. So I will leave those decisions up to each individual. That will do it for this one. As always, if you liked it enough to subscribe, very much appreciated. Click the little circle right up there. If you'd like to check out more videos, see what I'm about, you can find them over in here. If you leave a comment, I will respond. Just know it can take me a couple days because I tend to get a few comments. That will do it for this one. As always, guys, stay safe. We'll catch you all next time.